Whether you need to stream quarterback, tight end, or yes, even defense, I got you covered this week. I'm going to give you my top 3 streamers at each position that are readily available on almost every single waiver wire. Now, before you run out to pick up these streamers, also make sure you get to Underdog and get your picks in. They have picks live for week 3 already on the site right now. And if you're new to Underdog and haven't tried it yet and you sign up right now, you're going to get this Patrick Mahomes new customer special. He just needs 1 yard on Sunday Night Football. That's a free pick for you. Easy win right there. And if you are signing up for Underdog for the first time, make sure you use promo code ENDGAME, because not only are you going to get that Patrick Mahomes special, you're also going to get a 50% deposit match up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Go to Underdog, sign up using promo code ENDGAME, take advantage of these offers. All right, let's start at quarterback. Let me first say, if you're streaming quarterback this week and Derek Carr is somehow still on your waiver wire, he should be your number 1 option. He's been scooped up in a lot of leagues. He's seen his roster percentage go up to about 65%. But if for some reason he's still out there and you need him, he's the number 1 guy. But if he's not, take a look at these guys. All right, let's start with Geno Smith. He's about 40% rostered across all sites right now. And so far this year, he's been good, like solid, nothing special, but nothing bad either. Had 18.8 fantasy points in week 1, 17.9 fantasy points in week 2. You'll take that as a streaming option every single week. Gets a home matchup this week against the Miami Dolphins. Couple things I like about Geno Smith this week. Number 1, really looks like Kenneth Walker is not playing, and anytime Kenneth Walker doesn't play, Seattle Seahawks pass the ball more because Zach Charbonnet has just not been an efficient runner so far. So right there, we could see Geno Smith throw the ball more than normal. Plus, this is a good matchup. This Dolphins secondary is all kinds of banged up and all kinds of not very good right now. Don't look at what happened last week against Buffalo. Josh Allen, sure, he only had 140 passing yards, but that's because they didn't need to throw the ball. They were just smoking this Dolphins team, and Josh Allen didn't have to do anything here. So I think this is a great spot for Geno Smith. He's got DK Metcalf. We saw the emergence of JSN last week. Tyler Lockett is still there. I think Geno Smith, the number 1 streaming option, again, if Derek Carr not out there. My number 2 streaming option this week is going to be Sam Darnold, about 25% rostered across all fantasy sites. Believe it or not, Sam Darnold is the QB 10 on the season. Now, he had a 15-point game in week 1, but then had 20 fantasy points last week. He's been pretty solid in both games here. He gets a home matchup against the Houston Texans, who are giving up the 11th most points to quarterbacks despite getting to play Caleb Williams last week. Jefferson already announced healthy, ready to go for this game. He's got Kevin O'Connell, who we know is kind of a quarterback whisperer here. He's in this good Vikings offense. He's at home in the Dome. There's really not much to fear about Sam Darnold here. I mean, sure, he's Sam Darnold. He could always bust, but I think he gives you a pretty high floor this week. You should feel fairly good about him, especially knowing that Justin Jefferson is out there. So if Carr and Geno Smith are gone, I think Sam Darnold is your next best option. And then for those of you in deeper leagues that need to get deep, why not look at Andy Dalton, the new starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, only about 4% rostered across fantasy sites right now. Now, take this with a little bit of a grain of salt here, but last year in his 1 start for the Panthers, he threw for 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. And this was on the road in Seattle. But there's no reason to think he won't just do this again. He's a 36-year-old quarterback. He's not out there trying to prove that he could still be a starting quarterback somewhere or that he still has anything left in the tank. He's just going to go out there and sling it because why not? Not a care in the world, not playing to try to save the Panthers season or anything here. He's going to go out there with no pressure on him and just let it fly. Sure, he could turn the ball over a couple times. He could be terrible, but he also could be great. He could also put up over 300 passing yards and a couple touchdowns in this game. Yes, the Raiders defense has been better this year. They've been pretty good. That pass rush is good, but I don't think the Raiders are a defense that is going to scare me off of Andy Dalton thinking like they're an elite defense or anything. So sure, I prefer the other 2 more if they're available, but if you're in a deep league or maybe you're in a super flex league and you need a streamer this week, take a look at Andy Dalton. Yes, he has plenty of risk, but he's also got plenty of upside. All right, let's move on to tight end. And I think we saw on Thursday night the cautionary tale about streaming tight ends who just had 1 random big game with Hunter Henry. But besides that, I'm still going to roll with Mike Gesicki this week if I need a streamer. He's still only about 30% rostered across all sites. I know T. Higgins is going to play, and that does put a little bit of a damper on him. Still, we're talking about a guy coming off a 7-catch, 91-yard performance. He leads the Bengals in air yards this year. Yes, even more than Jamar Chase right now. So even with T. Higgins back, I think he's going to be involved in this passing game. And you look at this matchup, it's the Commanders. This is, you just want to stream against this defense. Now, if you look on the season, you'll see the Commanders have given up the fewest fantasy points to tight ends. But that's because they played the Buccaneers and the Giants, two teams who do not throw to the tight ends at all. I mean, I don't even know. Theo Johnson, is he the Giants tight end one and the Bucks tight end one, K. Dotton? Just out there running wind sprints every single week. Even with T. Higgins back, I still think Gesicki will be involved in this offense enough. Sure, it does cap his ceiling a little bit, but I still think he's the best of the streaming options for tight ends this week. And he's still available in almost 70% of leagues. So if you need a tight end this week, go see if he's out there. Now, if he's not, or maybe you're just a little worried because of T. Higgins, I also really like Brenton Strange of the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. Only 2% rostered across fantasy leagues. This is the perfect guy to grab if you have Evan Ingram, because you can just probably ride with him until Evan Ingram comes back, and then you can ride with Evan Ingram again. But you look at it last week without Evan Ingram, tied for the team lead with Gabe Davis with 7 targets, had a respectable 3 catches for 65 yards. But what I really like here, he had 2 end zone targets. That's what we're looking for from a streaming tight end. Can he score touchdowns? Getting 2 end zone targets, that is what we're looking for. Not only that, he had a very solid first read target percentage of 21.3. That is a great number for a tight end. And this matchup against the Bills should not scare you. Now, sure, in week 1, Trey McBride did not go off against this defense, but he had 5 catches for 30 yards. And then last week, Jonnu Smith, 6 catches for 53 yards. This defense is not going to scare me off of Strange in any way. And the Jaguars, they utilize the tight end even without Evan Ingram. We saw it last week. Brendan Strange just stepped into that role. So if you've got Evan Ingram especially, or if you're a little nervous about Mike Gesicki with T. Higgins back, go pick up Brendan Strange. I think he comes through again this week. And then my number 3 streaming option at tight end is going to be Zach Ertz. Still only 11% rostered across fantasy, but the reason I have him number 3 is because I just don't think there's a lot of upside here. Yeah, the floor is fine. He had 4 catches for 62 yards last week. I mean, you'll take 10 fantasy points from your streaming tight end any given week. I just don't know if he has the touchdown upside of Gesicki or Brenton Strange, because this Commanders offense is just so conservative right now. And if they do get near the goal line, we're probably either going to see Jaden Daniels or Brian Robinson, or maybe even Austin Eckler just run the ball. They're not going to ask Jaden Daniels to throw the ball near the goal line if they don't have to. But he does offer a decent floor if he's your best option. No, again, not the most exciting guy, not the biggest ceiling here, but if you're just looking for a tight end that you feel pretty good about will get you some points, that's Zach Ertz this week. All right, let's move on to everybody's favorite, streaming defenses. That's right, we are going to do streaming defenses this week. I'm going to give you 3 defenses that are widely available out there that you can go pick up now that I think have great matchups. And let's start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are probably one of my favorite defenses this week anyways. And somehow they're only 44% rostered across all fantasy leagues. Now, I get it. The Buccaneers have not been generating a lot of pressure, not been generating a lot of sacks. In fact, they're dead last in sack rate. But they get a great matchup this week against Bo Nix and this Denver Broncos offense. Bo Nix so far has thrown 2 interceptions and taken 2 sacks in each of the first 2 games. And you should have no worry that this Broncos offense is going to light up this Buccaneers defense. So maybe the Buccaneers don't have the highest ceiling among streaming defenses this week because, again, they may not sack Bo Nix a ton, but they can definitely turn him over. There's always chance for a pick 6 here, and the floor is so high because you don't have to worry about the Broncos scoring a ton of points. Then my number 2 streaming defense is going to be the Chargers against the Steelers. Look, the Chargers have actually been a good defense this year, but we also have to remember they've played the Raiders and the Bryce Young-led Panthers so far, so we got to take it with a little bit of grain of salt. But still, they ranked 10th in sack rate this year, and even for Fields being a mobile guy, he's been sacked twice in each of the first 2 games. Now, the reason why I don't have him as high as the Bucs is because this is such a conservative Steelers offense that, surprisingly, Justin Fields has yet to throw an interception. They're just playing so conservative that it doesn't really give the Chargers a high ceiling this week. But again, you don't have to worry about the Steelers putting a ton of points on them. They have a very, very high floor here. And the Chargers defense has scored double-digit points in each of the first 2 games. I think they can get you a solid double-digit points again this week. No, maybe they're not going to win you your week, but they probably won't lose it either. And then my number 3 streaming defense is going to be Green Bay against Tennessee. I can't believe they're less than 30% rostered across fantasy leagues. They're coming off a dominating performance where they intercepted Anthony Richardson 3 times and held this Colts offense to very little points. And Will Levis, the quarterback of the Titans, sure, he can always pull off some miracle play, but he's also taken 7 sacks this year and turned the ball over 3 times in just 2 games. Now the downside here is, like the Buccaneers, the Packers also have not been a high sack rate team. I think they're like 3rd or 4th lowest sack percentage going into this game. But again, Will Levis could change that. They could get a few sacks against him. They could definitely turn him over. And again, I'm not too worried about the Titans scoring a ton of points. Sure, Will Levis can always, chuck a miracle play to Calvin Ridley or something, but outside of that, what is really the scare here? So I think the Packers might have a higher ceiling than the first 2 teams I mentioned, but they're also a little bit riskier because the Titans can score some points. But still, if they're the best option for you out there and they're available in most leagues, I think they make a great streaming choice this week. So there you go. There's the top 3 streaming options at quarterback, tight end, and defense. But you need more than just streaming to win your matchup this week. We got you covered with that. Start sits, booms. Maybe you still need waiver pickups. Maybe you're trying to buy low on some players. Everything you need, you can find it in our Week 3 playlist right here.